Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, fellow anime otaku, future mangaka and anime cartoonists, Eric Stewart, Stephanie DeLeo, Jennifer Seehee, Derek Stephen Prince, Dorothy Fawn, Chris Patton. It gives me great pleasure and tremendous honor to speak to you this morning, about American-made anime. I am proud to be here today. I am honored and privileged to be here at the Kansas City International Airport Expo Center here in Kansas City, Missouri. I am proud to speak to you about American-made anime here in the great state of Missouri, a state that was born in 1824 in the pre-antebellum era, a state that saw the devastation of the United States Civil War and emerged victorious and triumphant and stronger than ever before. A state that is the beginning of the path to manifest destiny in the Pacific Ocean. A state that has produced such historical characters such as Mark Twain, Walt Disney, General John Blackjack Pershing, Adolphus Bush, George Washington Carver, and Harry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States. A state that is known by its nom de ta as the Show Me State. We gather here today in this convention center in this city of technology, industry, commerce, and academics at this venue for anime otaku. We gather here today at a convention not only for anime and manga, but for Oriental culture, Japanese culture, and American culture. We meet here at a crossroads, not only a crossroads here in America, but a cultural crossroads, a crossroads into the future. I shall speak to you today about American-made anime, an anime made by American people for the American people, an anime that indoctrinates its own cultural practices and is made democratically. We shall create our own anime industry, an anime industry that is democratically run by American anime otaku. American-made anime in particular, and anime in general, is part of art history. Art history has come a long ways since the time of prehistoric man in Kenya and Africa to today in the modern world. I shall condense 50,000 years of art history into a span of a half millennia. 500 years ago, when mankind set foot on this planet, mankind learned how to draw and paint scenes of everyday life. Everyday life was primitive and consisted of hunting and gathering of wildlife and game for survival. Mankind painted hunting and gathering scenes on walls of the caves of Lascaux in France, as well as carve out the first statues. The first works of art were crude and rudimentary at best. 400 years ago came the birth of ancient civilization in ancient Mesopotamia. With that came the first storytelling panels, reliefs, plaques, and the advent of architecture. The arch came along with the first buildings. With ancient Mesopotamia came ancient Egypt. With ancient Egyptian civilization came statues, caskets, and death masks of pharaohs adorned in gold. Tombs and walls were painted with everyday scenes and hieroglyphics that became the first pieces of literacy. Ancient Israel, Persia, and Babylonia followed along. Then about 350 years ago came ancient Greece and the dawn of modern civilization. With the dawn of modern civilization came the birth of realism. With that came everyday scenes on wine vessels, marble sculptures, modern architectures with columns that commanded great authority, and reliefs to be included. Ancient Greeks also learned how to carve statues of people. In the archaic period, the ancient Greeks learned how to carve statues by making them look very stiff, as if they were monsters. As ancient Greek art evolved, the Greeks learned how to carve statues and put them in a counterpostal pose. Statues looked more lifelike. In the Hellenistic period, the Greeks learned how to carve statues with more exuberance and emotion. Statues were carved with more attention to detail. Everything in the Hellenistic period was more emotional and dramatic. The evolution of Greek art from stiff to realistic to emotional would repeat itself 2 millennia later in the Renaissance age. Ancient Roman civilization came about 300 years ago. Ancient Rome was a continuation of ancient Greece, in which included architecture that commanded great authority. Busts of great emperors and heads of state, interior decor adorned in gold and marble, and frescoes that told stories and displayed great propaganda value. Ancient Rome was the golden age of civilization and prosperity. 250 years ago came the birth of Christianity. With that came the fall of ancient Rome, classical civilization in all its glory. The medieval age came Gothic and Romanesque architecture, frescoes, reliefs, stained glass windows that told biblical stories, and holy Bibles and Qurans that were handwritten and only accessible to wealthy families, as well as the Catholic clergy and the Islamic clergy. Medieval art wasn't limited to Christianity and Islam alone. Medieval art was also accessible to European nobility. Medieval art not only told biblical stories, but they also portrayed scenes of gallantry, valor, chivalry, and romance. Medieval art portrayed scenes of jousting and knights fighting it out on horseback, and battles between two feuding armies. 100 years ago came the Renaissance age. The Renaissance age came the rebirth of ancient Greek and Roman virtues and values. It also spelled the rebirth of ancient art and architecture. The Renaissance age spelled Johann Gensflich Gutenberg's invention of the printing press. The invention of the printing press spelled the birth of assembly line technology and made literacy accessible to the masses. Paintings, statues, and reliefs no longer had to be commissioned by the Catholic Church or kings and queens. They were commissioned by common people for the common people. With the Renaissance age came Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, de Lodovico, Buonarroti Simone, Filippo Brunelleschi. The Baroque era, the Rococo era, and the Neoclassical era followed. With that came the rebirth of realism and romanticism. Art also came to the New World at this time. It came to the 13 colonies in New England and flourished. Also at this time came the birth of modern ideas of religious freedom. With that came religious figures like Czechoslovakia's Jan Hus and Germany's Martin Luther about 100 years later. Both Jan Hus and Martin Luther challenged the Catholic Church on the grounds of moral corruption within religion and Christianity. Whilst Jan Hus was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death, and burned at the stake for heresy, Martin Luther was spared from execution and died at the age of 62. The Protestant Reformation opened the doors to the idea that everyone should have access to the Word of God. The idea of the Protestant Reformation not only changed how people thought about religion forever, but also changed the ideas of politics and how people live today. 20 years ago came a new century. With that came the Industrial Revolution and the Victorian Age. With the Industrial Revolution came the birth of mass transportation, mass production of everyday goods, photography, and new styles of art. As the century progressed, new styles of art, never seen before in America and Europe, came to be. Impressionism and Art Nouveau were the most prominent. With the Impressionist movement came Vincent van Gogh, Claude Monet, Pierre-Augustin Renoir, John Duncan, Gustav Klimt, Edgar Degas. With the Impressionist movement came Vincent van Gogh, Claude Monet, Pierre-Augustin Renoir, Paul Cézanne, and Edgar Degas. With the Art Nouveau movement came Jean Dupas, John Duncan, Gustav Klimt, Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, and Alphonse Mucha, the painter of his grand masterpiece, the Slav Epic. 10 years ago came the 20th century. With the 20th century came America's century. The 20th century came the advent of the motion picture, the automobile, the airplane, the computer, and new styles of art. With that, we have painters like Spain's Salvador Dali and his style of surrealism, Norman Rockwell and his style of realism, Andy Warhol and his style of pop art. In terms of architecture, we have Wright, Art Deco, and International Architecture. We also have Pierre Koenig and his architectural style of International style, and his signature design of the Stahl House. We also have Frank Lloyd Wright, his architectural style of prairie architecture, and his signature masterpiece of the Falling Waters House. As the century progressed, new inventions and technologies came into being. The jet engine made aviation faster. Television connected the world in ways never thought possible. Plastics made lives easier, and the computer was in its infancy. The internet had yet to come into being. As the late 20th century came and went, new technologies came along with it. The computer got smaller, the birth of the internet, new ideas of everyday life, and the world became a smaller place. The hippie world was born and came new styles of modern art. A year and a half ago came the 21st century. And with that came the new millennium. With the beginning of the new millennium, came the golden age of the internet. With that came computer art, cybernet art, interactive art, and new media art. With that came artists from the modern world like John Ritter, Liu Dao, Laurie Anderson, and Youssef Merhe. The 21st century is the pinnacle of art. Anime is a part of the art world. For a century now, anime has been part of the art world. Anime has been part of the art world, has been part of the world of art, and will always be for all time's sake. Frank Lloyd Wright, America's greatest architect and one of the founding fathers of modern architecture, once said, "Give me the luxuries of life, and I will willingly do without the necessities." I shall say this for all anime otaku. Give me all the anime I can watch, all the manga I can read, and the J media on offer for public consumption, and I am more than happy to do without Western media and American pop culture. We, the American people, are a nation of innovators and creators. A nation of pioneers, adventurers, explorers, a nation of rebels and free spirits. We are a nation of many nations and many cultures. We are a diverse nation in every facet of the world's melting pot. That is who we are as the American people. We are a great nation despite our racial prejudices and bigotries. We are the world's melting pot despite our ignorance and fears. We shall create our own anime industry here in the United States of America. An anime industry that competes with Japan's for supremacy in the in the anime world, for supremacy over profits as well as popularity. An anime industry that engages in friendly competition with her mother country to be on top. We shall have an anime industry second to none. Not only we shall have our own anime industry, but we shall have our own household names in anime and manga. Household names that are catchy and memorable to America and the world. We shall have big name manga publishers that will accept manga illustrated like how the Japanese do so and are written solely in the English language. Our manga and anime shall have themes that are of Americana with a hint of Japanese culture. No one nation shall have an exclusive monopoly over anime. I believe that we, the American people, shall upset the Japanese-held monopoly over anime. We shall seize the opportunity and go for it. We have upset monopolies ever since the time of Theodore Rex Roosevelt, when he upset the monopolies of the robber barons in steel, railroad, electricity, and oil. We, the American people, have the talent, skills, and visual audio technology. We shall put it to good use for anime and manga. If we are to establish our own anime industry, we must be willing to work together. We must work together if we are to establish our own anime industry for the people of the United States of America. We must work together not only for the sake of American-made anime, but for the benefit of the American people. Mark Twain, the great American author and humorist, once told a protege that he can write a book about anything he wanted. I shall say this to the American people. You can write and draw your own manga and anime about anything you want. You can write a short story, you can write a great novel, or you can write a manga volume series set. You can write and draw your own manga about anything you want. If we are to have our own anime industry, we shall appeal to and sell our product to and ideas to CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox, as well as their associates and rivals. We shall sell our ideas and products to them for American-made anime. We shall do this to make anime part of the greater American mainstream. Another fringe benefit about American-made anime is language and translation. If we the American people are to create our own anime, we don't have to translate an entire dialogue of anime from Japanese to English. We shall have the Japanese doing the same things that we've been doing. Now, I would lie to you if I said that establishing our own anime industry would come without sacrifice. Nothing comes without sacrifice. Everything in this world that has been innovative, idealistic, or progressive has always come with sacrifice. We, the American people, know that. If we are to create our own anime industry, we shall take matters into our own hands. We must be willing to pay any price, no matter what the debt, with whatever interest. We shall be willing to face adversity, rejection, ridicule, controversy, and negative and destructive criticism. If we are to create our own anime industry, we must be willing to pay any price, no matter what the debt, with whatever interest. If it means having to confront controversy and negative and destructive criticism, so be it. If controversy and negative and destructive criticism, in which comes in the form of naysayers and anime haters, religious moralists, rejection from mainstream society, then so be it. This is a price we must be willing to pay if we are to have our own anime industry. Other controversy and criticism will be that American-made anime will be Cartoon Network all over again and won't be recognized as real anime at all. Other anime haters will champion will champion American cartoons over anime. If we are to stick together, stick to our laurels, and unite, we will prove the naysayers and anime haters wrong. We can create our own anime industry despite the opposition. The naysayers and anime haters' interests lie in the preservation of the status quo. If part of paying for the American anime industry to exist means challenging the status quo, so be it. Controversy and criticism from naysayers and anime haters is a small consolation we must be willing to pay. It is a small consolation we must be willing to pay if we are to have our own anime industry. If we, the American people, are to have our own anime industry, we must get common Americans to fall in love with anime. This feat will not come easy. If we are to get common Americans to fall in love with anime, we must be willing to do so to win their favor. We must use well-established commercial lines as well as the internet. I say this since I not only want to do this for not only anime otaku, but I want to do this for the benefit of mankind. Where most people see opportunity, where most people see risk, I see an opportunity. I see opportunity. Where most people see a pipe dream, I see the future. American-made anime may be a pipe dream to the vast majority, but I see American-made anime as the future. As a cultural endeavor, American-made anime can have a major impact on not only just the United States, but the entire Western world. The anime world belongs to everyone around the world, not only to Japanese and Oriental countries alone, but to everyone in the Western world. It belongs to Americans, Canadians, and Europeans. Anime belongs to everyone, regardless of language, ethnicity, religion, or creed. The anime world is a world much bigger than us. It is a world much bigger than me, a world much bigger than you, a world much bigger than all anime conventions put together, a world much bigger than Japan, and a world much bigger than the United States. Let us go forth and create an anime industry that is for everyone.